Hey, Motorman here. Last Sunday's class I had 7 riders, one of which had an unusual problem. I say unusual because I run into this very rarely, but this rider, she definitely had this particular problem, and we're going to go through this video. Before the end of it, I'm going to explain exactly what she's doing wrong, but let's see if you could figure it out as well. All right, take a look at this rider. This is Priscilla. She's on an Indian Chief. She recently downsized from a Indian touring motorcycle because she felt it was too big for her skill level. Now, she doesn't appear to be doing too bad. Sorry about sometimes the person being out of the frame, but I'm filming as I'm teaching, so keep that in mind. Her speed looks really good. Doesn't appear to be afraid to lean at all. And usually that's the biggest fear for most people, is they try to make these turns with the motorcycle straight up, which of course fights the very design of the motorcycle. But she doesn't have that problem. The fear of the lean is the probably the most common of all the problems. So what exactly is she doing wrong? Now don't worry, I'm going to tell you eventually, but I want to see if you could pick it out. And it is subtle and probably more difficult to pick out what she's doing wrong while watching the video and not hearing the motor. But give it a try anyway. Now keep in mind that radius equals miles per hour. The faster you go at a given lean angle, the wider your radius is going to be. Now notice here, she gets through the gate, turns ahead, her head and eyes are pretty good. The area between the orange cone and the orange cone with the green tip, we call that area gate because you have to pass through it. Now watch this. There's another cone right where that arrow is pointing. That's to the outside of the green cone. That's a small green cone, so that if the rider feels they can't make it through the exercise, generally because they didn't turn their head fast enough, they just go to the outside, and that gives you a lot more room to make it through. So if her head and eyes are good, and she's making it through some of the gates, she's just a little wide, what's the problem here? Well, all right, here it is. What it is she has yet to really master the friction zone and the proper use of the rear brake. You're controlling your speed with a combination of the clutch and throttle and a little pressure on the rear brake. Now, we don't want to use the rear brake as a crutch, but she's not using it at all. You rarely see her brake lights come on, so she has to, or doesn't really understand what the rear brake does for her. That means her speed is going to be a little bit too high. Occasionally, she puts a foot down. She really doesn't have to because she's got plenty of speed going here. I'm estimating somewhere around 10 miles per hour. And as I said, most of the time, people are going through this at 4 or 5 miles an hour and trying to keep the bike straight up, but that's not her problem. Her problem is she has yet to really master the friction zone and adjust the clutch travel so that she's going at the correct speed. And if you don't combine that with any rear brake, there's really no way to control your speed. So it's as if she's actually just steering through all the exercises, and that means she's not in complete control. If you're not afraid to lean the motorcycle, you can actually steer through the first 2 exercises. But as things get a little bit tougher, a little bit closer, that's not going to work anymore. Here's Donna going to demonstrate this exercise so you see what it should actually look like.
She dips it out, green cone. Turns ahead and eyes. Green cone. Turns ahead and eyes. Finds that green cone. Turns ahead and eyes. And then pulls out. I mean, if little girls can do it, little skinny girls could do it, how hard could this be?
Real hard.
I was to say, I'm gonna mess it up, don't worry.
Questions? Then I'll do it again. Here's that straight part. Now all the rest of it is turning in one direction or another. Feel that bike transition, just like you did in the last exercise. Her speed's right around 10 miles an hour. You can get up to 12 in here. If you got a sport bike, they lean further. You could probably get up to 15 or 18.
When learning the 3 techniques, head and eyes, friction zone, a little pressure on the rear brake, you got to use all three things and put them together. If you just got the clutch fully engaged and you're not using any rear brake, you're going to be going too fast for exercises like this. Notice her rear brake doesn't come on at all. So what I'm going to do for this rider is I'm going to give her a free one-on-one lesson. Now notice there, since she had no brake, she wasn't able to slow down, so she pulled in the clutch. That caused no power to the rear wheel. The foot had to come down. She's getting really frustrated here because she can't simply just steer through the exercise and make it within the allotted space. So the answer to this is this rider's going to need a one-on-one lesson. I'm going to work with her, at least spend an hour to hour and a half on the friction zone and let it be clear to her what that rear brake is going to do for her. Remember, it's not a crutch, it's just a little helper. So you got clutch, throttle, a little rear brake, and you can adjust your speed as needed. What we don't want to do is use a lot of pressure or load up that rear brake against the throttle. It's not going to help the rider. It's going to wear out your clutch. It's going to wear out your brakes, so there's no reason for it. It's light, steady pressure. The better you get with the clutch and throttle, the less rear brake you're going to need. You could actually slow the bike or pick up speed using the clutch and throttle. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to give this young lady a private lesson, and I'll make sure you see how it turns out.